Hello and welcome back to the No BS Spirituality Podcast. My name is Madison White. I am a spiritual healer, teacher, and guide certified with the Modern Mystery School, and I own a light center here in Woburn, Massachusetts. And today I have my first guest on the podcast, and it made so much sense for this guest to be who he is. As a spiritual guide and healer and teacher, that also means that I am a student. And Jordan Bain is a Kabbalah teacher, senior guide, ritual master. He is my guide. He did my life activation in 2013. My Empower Thyself initiation was there for every Kabbalah ascension process that I took. And we have been, evolving alongside each other using the tools of the Mystery School. When I started out, were you in your apprentice training yet in that first tree? I know you led the study groups.
I was just leading study groups. I started my apprentice training like a month after we finished that tree.
Yeah. And now you're a teacher. You're a fully certified Kabbalah teacher. I am a guide. So we've been evolving alongside each other over the past decade, I think, almost, that we've known each other. So just a true testament to these fruits and how someone can really evolve using the tools of the Mystery School. And it also made so much sense to have Jordan on the podcast today because we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is Kabbalah. If we're talking about the science of spirituality, Kabbalah to me is a place where you can really see exactly how science and spirituality meet, how they intersect, and how magic is created therein. First of all, I just want to welcome Jordan onto the podcast and thank you so much for sharing your incredible wisdom when it comes to Kabbalah. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
Let's talk Kabbalah.
About Kabbalah, I know we share this really intense passion for Kabbalah. We both are, I know how passionate you are about it as well. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it because I feel like sometimes I talk to clients and because Kabbalah has so much depth, it has so much beauty, it has so much multidimensionality, which we're going to get into in a minute. I know I get excited and can stumble over my words. So I'm excited to have your perspective on what is Kabbalah. So before we get into what it is, how it works, how it might be different from maybe other ways that people have experienced Kabbalah, I know in my experience when I came into the Mystery School, Kabbalah was really the driving force of me receiving life activation, Empower Thyself initiation. It was really, I just wanted to take Kabbalah. And I don't know what it was about that, but as soon as I heard that word, I was like, ooh, what is that? There's something about that. I need that. I don't know what that is, but I know that I need it. And you said, oh, it's a 10 to 12 month program. And to me, in my mind, I thought, I knew that there was going to be no quick fix. I knew that there was going to be no simple solution, no overnight thing, no one session or one thing that was going to change the course of the trajectory of my life, that was going to change me in the way that I wanted to evolve. So to me, when you said it was this sort of, there was a time investment, there was a financial investment, I really had to put myself in this for an entire year. I think to me that clicked somewhere in me that this was going to go to the depth that I needed to go in order to receive the fruits, to receive the change, the evolution that I was desiring in myself at the time. When I came into the school, I was not in control of my life. Even though I had a steady job, I had money, things on the outside were going well. I really was not happy. I really was not fulfilled. I really was not in a place of power, in the sense that I felt like I had a say or control over what was happening in my life, who was in my life, what I was doing in my life. And I knew that I needed something. I had been in therapy. I had done, I had hallucinogenic epiphanies on drugs, and none of it was sticking, so I knew that I needed something that was really going to be in depth and go to the place that I needed to go to have some change. And Kabbalah did that, and Kabbalah has done that for me over and over again, because we peel off these layers of this onion, of this sort of subconscious programming that we have that creates our reality. So that has been kind of my experience with Kabbalah, and personal development, personal, growing and evolving can almost become like almost like addictive in of itself when you realize that you know what needs to change and then you know how to change it. It's like, well, what's stopping me? Nothing. You
Mm.
have the what and the how, and you can move forward and do that. So Kabbalah is a map, it's a framework of reality. It's the cosmos, it's man, it's Jordan, what is Kabbalah? We could talk about it forever, I know.
For
Um,
sure.
but maybe just a little snippet of, what is Kabbalah? What does it come from? We have the beautiful picture behind you so we can have a visual aid as we talk about it. But, ah, yeah, what is Kabbalah and where does it come from?
Great question. I mean, as you said, we can talk about Kabbalah for a really long time. And because it is such a vast system, and when you found Kabbalah, it spoke to you. Something about Kabbalah spoke to you. So, in your experience and in your story, you were looking for the kind of journey that Kabbalah provides. And I think that's like a lot of people. A lot of people are looking for a deep, spiritually based, but not religious journey into themselves. They don't want to go into somebody else's belief system. That it's like I think the world is, for a lot of people, they're very, very tired of um, listening to others say, this is the answer here, this is the answer there, and that listening to others hasn't really set them free. Listening to the messages of their parents or their family of origin, listening to the messages of their education or their religion, has not brought them, for most people, has not brought them a great amount of happiness in their lives. They haven't really found happiness, much less joy, much less inner peace. And so they're oftentimes looking for, many people that I meet, of course, I have an inherent bias that, I run a spiritual center for empowerment and leadership and transformation and self-healing. So, of course, the people I'm talking to are interested in those sorts of things in their lives. Yet, I don't think that those people are alone, and yet many people do feel that their journey toward their own empowerment is often a lonely one, and we can talk about that if we have time. But a little bit of that is kind of built into being on a journey of self empowerment, because you can't necessarily take everyone in your life with you on that journey because of the very nature of self empowerment. You empower yourself, you don't empower others. They have to choose that for themselves. So if you choose it for yourself, there's no guarantee that other people around you are going to choose it for themselves.
Mm,
And so and that's often one of the most challenging things early on in a person's personal awakening and personal development, personal empowerment journey, is the fact that not everyone around you who you were used to be friends with is going to see eye to eye with you anymore. Not all your former associations, people, relationships are going to come along for that ride.
mhm,
And so that requires a certain level of courage, and oftentimes that courage we have to have, for most people, not everyone this applies to, but I think maybe 8 out of 10 people, 9 out of 10 people, they have to suffer a certain amount to realize that what they're doing isn't really working fully.
mhm,
Right? Again, there is that 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10 people who everything's just great. It's fantastic. And they just somehow want more.
mhm,
But for most people, their journey of coming into their own personal empowerment and seeking to know themselves more, seeking to empower themselves more, seeking to step out of old programs. Why would you step out of something that's working? Like, what's the motivation to step out of an old program if that old program is bringing you good things in your life? Very few people do that just because they want something new or just because they feel that they could be better. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, as the old saying goes. So
mm,
for most people, something has to break before they want to fix it.
mhm,
And, you know, forgive the analogy of broken and fixing, because that doesn't really work very well
mm,
in context of Kabbalah. We're not broken and we don't need fixing, but we can always be better. We can always have more of ourselves. We can always come more into present time. We can live less in the past and future and more in the now. We can be more in our bodies and less, ungrounded and disconnected. We want to be plugged in with us. We want to know ourselves. So all these things that we talk about in the mystery school, Kabbalah is one of the main systems that we have for doing that. And it brings us to our fulfillment as individuals. Kabbalah is a very ancient system, and the way we work with it in the mystery school was parallel to the way that the Jewish traditions worked with it about 3,000 years ago. And our mystery school, comes from King Solomon. And King Solomon is often, pretty much everyone, if they know biblical history, thinks of King Solomon as a king of the Jews. And he was one of the sons of King David. And, he built the famous temple in Jerusalem, supposedly. And, he's attributed in many stories, especially like the Arabian Nights tales, with all sorts of miraculous abilities and magical powers. It's said that he could command angels and demons. It's said that he could, work healing miracles. It's said that he was the wisest man that ever lived, and could see right through to the heart of any situation and make the wise decision or the wise choice. He's also known as the wealthiest man that ever lived. And there's still books written about that today. Like there's financial advisor books written about like how to be wealthy like King Solomon.
Oh, interesting.
And, King Solomon's 7-step plan for wealth, or however many steps there are in that plan for wealth, or King Solomon's guide to investing, those sorts of concepts. These are not like actual titles of books I'm paraphrasing, but there are several books I've seen over the last 10 years that specifically reference and are in their titles King Solomon. And these are financial books. So something about Solomon was very, very unique and very special. And the way that we do Kabbalah in the mystery school today was created 3,000 years ago, or put into its current form. So it was not created by King Solomon. The lore or the mythology surrounding the tree of life and Kabbalah goes back to the first humans. Now, however we understand the first humans, whether you see that through a religious lens and in a strict biblical sense, like, the first humans came here 5,700 years ago and they just popped down here from the Garden of Eden and bam, here we were. Or whether you look at it from a purely materialistic science perspective of like humans have evolved from apes over the last 4.5 million years. And, here we are and we have Homo sapiens for the last 200,000 years. Maybe those things actually aren't opposed to each other. And the mystery school would say those things are not actually different.
Yeah.
And to go penetrate the mysteries of, well, wait a minute, humans can't both have evolved over 4.5 million years from apes and have been created by God. And the mystery school would say, well, maybe actually they could be. And maybe those timelines coincide with different things, with different types of events. So there's physical evolution and spiritual evolution. And maybe the physical evolution of humans did take millions and millions and millions of years, according to what mystery school teaches. And also, maybe something happened on Earth 5,000, 6,000 years ago in terms of modern civilization, where maybe you could think of the human bodies living at the time got a spiritual upgrade. There's a lot of ways we could talk about it. But according to the mythology and stories surrounding Kabbalah, Kabbalah was a system given to humans when humans became physical, and we stepped out of just being spiritual essences or spiritual beings, and we became physical beings. And the purpose of Kabbalah was to remember how to live as a spiritual being in a physical body. So we could call that like our journey home to ourselves. Kabbalah gives us a way to very systematically and scientifically climb up a series of steps into our higher selves, into our divine selves, into our true selves, into self-knowledge. There's a lot of ways we can talk about it. We could talk about, again, inner peace and fulfillment is sort of the pinnacle of what we can achieve as humans. And those things are, you can listen to any personal development podcast. You can listen to any life coach talk about this. You can listen to any leadership development training talk about this. It doesn't matter what you achieve. If you don't feel a sense of peace and fulfillment in doing it, you maybe haven't really achieved much of anything. Or if you've achieved it, that's great. I just made a post this week earlier. It's like, it doesn't matter how many people are cheering for you. If it's not spiritually aligned, it's not correct. Like it doesn't matter. The whole world could say you did a great job and you might not feel, and you hear this from celebrities and you hear this from really wealthy people all the time when they're interviewed.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, great. I made my first $250 million and I had a great wife and kids and family and all that stuff. And I had celebrity and I was a movie star and I had the car and I had the yacht and I felt totally empty. I felt like nothing. I felt high for a few days and then I just crashed. And then I turned to using drugs because I wanted that feeling, of, or I had to go search for the next thing. I needed to make my next, $250 million or whatever it was, right? These are all just hypothetical situations, but you can hear many, many wealthy and celebrity figures, wealthy people and celebrity figures say this again and again and again and again, that just achieving their physical goals did not make them happy.
Right.
It did not bring them inner peace. It did not bring them fulfillment. And because those things are an inside job. They are not tied to, like physical thing that I achieved. Like last year I bought a house and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to feel like I'm 41 years old. I finally bought my first house. This is so amazing. Like I've been doing a business as a life coach and spiritual healer and teacher of metaphysics now for like over 12 years full time. And this is amazing. I'm so proud of myself. That feeling of being proud of myself and like there was some kind of fulfillment that came out of it definitely lasted less than a few weeks. And within a few weeks, I was like, okay, cool. Now I have this expensive money pit and I love it's beautiful and I love living here and isn't that great? But so what? Like it didn't, we are told and we are sold this story that like when you achieve this, you're going to feel like this. But unless it's a spiritual achievement, it's fake.
Yeah.
And even when it's a spiritual achievement manifests in the physical, it's like, okay, on to the next thing. So those things never really fill us up.
Right.
The physical things we achieve don't fill us up in our soul.
Right.
Because it's just a physical thing. Like if I have a meal, I digest it, I poop it out, it's done. It was tasty when it happened, and then it's over. And I need to eat another meal, and I need to eat another meal. So there's a way that our souls ideally are designed to make permanent, real progress. And that progress should feel like peace, and that progress should feel like fulfillment. If we're not doing that, we're never going to get it by seeking those external things.
Right.
So Kabbalah is is one of many, but it's the system we use in the mystery school most prominently to remind ourselves of like, how do I build something from the inside out that actually brings me fulfillment in my life?
Yeah.
Because that blueprint is not out there in the world.
Right.
It's not obvious. It's not just like someone hands it to you in high school and says, okay, here's how you do it, or college, or it's not even stored in a graduate. You get your PhD, you're not going to figure that out.
Right.
You have to build it from the inside out. So Kabbalah is our best system that I've ever found on the planet and that we use in the mystery school for building our own fulfillment from the inside out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think exactly what you were saying, it's a lot of people get really frustrated because they are sort of sold this idea is if they do X, Y, Z, that they'll achieve some level of success, but it's all external. It's all external things. And there is no, or at least before finding Kabbalah, they don't know of a way, and then they get, and then they can even get stuck in this place of like distrust where it's like, okay, you told me that if I did this, I would be happy. Now they're like, okay, who says that I'm, now I don't believe anything that anyone's going to tell me, but I think people do know on the inside that there is this seeking for more. There is always this seeking for more. There's something that's driving people to achieve more, to achieve what you said. And I love the first word you threw out, true, was freedom. And, and what is true freedom? How I would love to hear how you would describe, because I think freedom is another word that people are really striving for. They feel locked in their lives, or they feel locked in their minds and don't know how to find a way out. So how would you describe true freedom?
I mean, to me, freedom always comes back to, and we teach this in the mystery school, it comes back to the ability to make a choice. Right? If you don't have freedom, you can't make a choice. Okay, great. But that actually isn't a useful thing until we add a few more pieces, a few more elements to it. So great. Oh, I have choice. Choice of what? What are you choosing between? Like if you have no concept of choice, then you have no freedom. And having a whole bunch of choices that are all within the same dimension of reality is also, to me, not freedom. I don't want to, start an argument with anyone online about it, but just my own personal experience of freedom is not, oh, I have all these choices that are functionally, spiritually, all the exact same thing. Like, the sort of the standard things of the Matrix that we're told are entertaining. It's like, if I'm just looking at 50 different movies produced by Hollywood, they're all the same. They're all telling the same basic archetypal stories. And so that to me isn't freedom to choose what movie I want to watch. Or it's not, maybe it's freedom to choose what movie I want to watch, but is that freedom? Is that really?
It's all going to keep you in the same, it's all going to give you pretty much the same result back.
There's no progression.
Right. Yeah. You're not going to evolve. You're not going to change. You're not going to have a new experience. You're just going to have the same story, the same, it kind of reminds me, if we're talking about like pop culture and media, how pretty much all of the songs that have been produced on radio and such are the four same chords rearranged in different ways. It's just, we're just getting the same stuff over and over again. So it's like, yeah, no wonder people feel stagnated. No wonder people feel like they're zombies and they're just like waking up, doing the same thing, pay taxes and die, and they're like, what the hell? Like, how do I break out of this? I don't even know what I'm trying to break out of, but I know that this is not it.
Yeah. So to have real freedom, we're going to have real choice. But to have real choice, you have to have real awareness. And to have real awareness, you have to have real knowledge. Like if I don't have knowledge of who I am and knowledge of the universe, like the Kabbalah, the tree of life is a map of the universe. And when you go through the tree, you meet yourself in all the different aspects of the universe, all the different archetypes of what it means to be a human being and an eternal being, more than just a physical fleshly body and neurological wiring in the brain. We are much, much more than that. As humans, we are eternal beings. In the mystery school teachings, we come from eternity. We spend a little bit of time here in a body. We go back to eternity. And that's not something that you can convince someone of. They either resonate with that and they're like, yeah, I kind of knew that. I've had direct experiences of that, whatever they might consider that to be, whether they are so-called spiritual experiences or whether it's deja vu or they remember a past life or whatever that they think that means. They remember their dreams and they realize my dreams feel more real than my physical life sometimes. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe there are other levels of reality. Maybe there is something more. But whether someone's convinced of that or not is not something that we as outsiders to that person can convince them of. That it's going to come from their own experience. Right. You mentioned hallucinogens before. It's one of the only upsides to hallucinogens for some people when they're early on in their path. They take a hallucinogenic drug and they realize, oh my God, there's more. And it's because it's through their own experience. They couldn't just read about that in a book. Now, long-term and over time, like hallucinogens are very destructive to a person's sense of self. They break down their sense of self, especially like plant spirit medicines. I know this is super unpopular as a perspective today, but plant spirit medicines really plug someone into the spirits of plants. But you're not a plant. Like you're a human being. And so to plug yourself into the spirits of plants over and over and over again doesn't necessarily further your progress. These are allies. These plant spirits are allies, just like power animals and shamanism are allies, and we can talk to them and we can relate to them. But they are not a substitute for our growth toward our own eternal selves, because you are not anyone else other than you.
Right.
You're you. And the mystery school tools exist to remind you that you are you. And that seems so silly. Like, well, why would I pay someone money and take a class to remember that I'm me? And it's like, you don't need to do that. Like, no one came to your door and held a gun up to your head and said, like, you should know yourself better. That's something that people who are mystery school students are very much self-selected. We say in our own hearts, I feel that there's more for me. And I want to seek that out, whatever that is. And, people who are drawn to the mystery school are often drawn to the structure and almost like the scientific nature of it, because while there is faith involved in doing mystery school work, you have to have faith in yourself. You don't need to have faith in like some teaching that you're never going to understand. You don't need to have faith in someone else's spiritual experience. You just say, okay, well, this obviously has worked for these people here. Does it work for every single person? Maybe not. Maybe mystery school doesn't work for every single person who tries it, in the sense of, like, I could look at it from the outside and say, well, their life improved, so it worked. But maybe they, with their own specific focus of what they think they want in their life, maybe they didn't get exactly what they thought they wanted when they came to the mystery school. Maybe the benefits were outside those blinders. Like, we all have blinders on. And so if your focus of this is the type of life I want, it's only right here in front of me, but then the result is over here or over here, you're going to say, well, I don't know if this mystery school really worked, but someone else could maybe look at you from the outside and be like, you're 3 times happier than you were last year before you got initiated and before you did Kabbalah. And you're like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. And then eventually over a period of years, you grow into an amazing life. And I would say from the outside, it worked. You might say, no, it didn't work because I wanted this specific thing. And that's really a lot of bringing us right back to Kabbalah, why we do Kabbalah. Because Kabbalah is the best system that we have that I've ever found for taking what you say you want and bringing that together and merging that with a higher consciousness of the universe or the light or source or God or goddess or whatever you want to call that. And bringing together the physical and spiritual realities, bringing together the different polarities and archetypes inside of you, and making a unified result come out of your journey. And that unified result is going to be both what you asked for, but actually even better than what you asked for. It's going to be more in alignment with who you really are. So Kabbalah will help show you from the inside out, remind you from the inside out what you might have forgotten about yourself. And so it will start to open up that knowledge. And when you have the knowledge of who you are, then you can start to have more awareness of the world inside of you and around you. If you know that something exists, if we live in Boston and I don't know that New York City exists, I probably will never go there. Why would I? I mean, what even is New York City, right? And then someone tells me about New York City and they show me a movie of people in New York City. And they show me that there's a roadmap to get to New York City and that here's the types of things you could do when you're in New York City. Then I can decide, because I have this awareness now and this knowledge, I can have the awareness and the knowledge and say, okay, well, I'm going to go there. I can make a choice.
Right.
And to go there is a different kind of life. New York is a different way of life. It's a different vibe. It's a different type of person who likes to live in New York. Most people I know who live in New York, they say they love it. And most people I know who live in Boston, they're like, I love it, but I could never live in New York. And a lot of people in New York are like, I can never live in Boston. There's it's like there's like a different kind of denizen who inhabits New York than the denizen of Boston, right? The tree of life is kind of like that. And if we only live in our own city, we only live in our own sphere on the tree, we're not aware of the other things that are really going on. But they're all part of humanity. They're all part of a greater whole. So Kabbalah makes us aware. It gives us the knowledge of these places within ourselves. Then we can go on the journey. Then we can make the choice. And then we have freedom.
Yeah.
Then we can say, how do I want to live? And where do I want to live?
Right.
Maybe I want to travel to New York, but maybe I want to live in New York. And I didn't.
Or maybe you go to New York and then you find out about Chicago.
Right. And then I want to go to Chicago. And then I find out about, San Francisco. Or then I find out about, Houston, Texas, or wherever or I find out about another country where they speak another language. And it's so different. But maybe it appeals to me. And the Kabbalah journey is like that. We find things that were totally outside of our previous spheres of awareness, but yet maybe those things are exactly what we need for our fulfillment, for our peace. So that's a little bit of the essence of Kabbalah.
Yeah, I want to go back to something else that you just said that I'm sort of stringing together just now, is like this knowledge, this experiential knowledge that you gain. And then I'm going to kind of work backwards, which gives you awareness of a choice for you to take a different action. Right. So that's kind of like, I would say, from like, Keter down to Malkuth in Kabbalistic terms. And if you want to know what the hell I just said, take Kabbalah.
We don't have time in half an hour to talk all about the spheres of the tree, but
no. But I just think it's amazing, because people might be at the level of, I don't know what to do. Right. I don't know what action to take. So just to sort of clarify this, and this is something that I think the path of initiation is really helpful, right? That's really the true path, right? Is the life activation, empower thyself, healers academy, as that's really what's going to open people up. Kabbalah is the most supportive thing I have found to that primary path.
Right. It's like the path of initiation is like the opening up the structures of the soul so that we can have better results in our lives. Or maybe one way to look at the path of initiation is like we're building a vehicle and we're filling it up with gas. But Kabbalah is the map and the GPS. So like, where are you going to go when you get in that vehicle? And so you can get all the upgrades to the vehicle through the path of initiation. There's, 6 major initiations on the path, and then kind of a 7th one at the end for people who want to really go all the way through the deepest doors of the mystery school. It's called the School of Mage. And that path, either 6 or 7 stages of initiation, it exists on its own. And yet Kabbalah is like the map that we use to navigate all the layers of that path in the inner worlds.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I love that analogy of the path, just so people have clarity of, there's the path of initiation, and then there's Kabbalah as well. But just to bring it back to the knowledge and awareness, I was thinking this morning about, having, I had a client, for example, who practices Wicca and witchcraft and sort of shamanic magic. And she was talking about how her relationship to her craft has amplified so much more having taken Kabbalah. She has so much more knowledge and awareness of these higher planes of dimensions and higher planes of herself. So if you're someone who is in a place where, maybe you feel stuck as the what to do, how to do it in your life, and maybe you have, some awareness of like, I really should do this, but I don't know why. I don't know why I don't. And an understanding that there isn't a book that you're going to read that's going to give you, it's really the key, I think, is that experiential knowledge. You can talk to like you said, you can talk to somebody about New York. You can talk to someone about, trying to explain what gravity is. But until someone experiences it for themselves and opens up those pathways for themselves is where they're empowered to make a better choice, better choice. For themselves with that higher understanding and higher knowledge of who we actually are, not just as humans in this merely physical life, but with the desire to know that, over the doors of every mystery school, the words know thyself, because that's really the core of any spiritual path, is to know, if you know who you are, what your purpose is, we ask those 5 questions and empower thyself. In Kabbalah, then you can know what to do. Nobody's going to tell you. Nobody's going to tell you the answers. Nobody knows your who, what, and why. But with the correct set of tools, you can excavate those answers for yourself. And Kabbalah is sort of the map of the excavation, you know what I mean, of where you're going to dig in a way that's not going to sort of just like fling you into the oblivion and, oh my God, I don't know what's happening,
No, Kabbalah is very, very structured.
Yeah.
It will keep you on track with, here's what I need to discover next. And then here's what I need to discover next. Yeah. And then after that, and then after that, and then after that, because there really is a way that we grow. There's a structure to all growth. We talk about the 7 stages of alchemy. We talk about the 10 spheres of the tree. We talk about the 7 hermetic principles, the 7 chakras. There's a structure to spirituality that is very definite, and that is not woo-woo. It's extremely practical. If you want to get things done in your day, and you have a very set energetic structure to hold that, you have a container that will ensure that you actually get the things done that you say you want to get done. Without that container, people struggle all the time so much just for basic productivity. And in the mystery school, we also might struggle for productivity, but like my understanding of productivity is like 1,000 times the average person's understanding. And I don't say that to brag. I just mean like the things that I get done, most people are like not just most people. I look back at my calendar from a month ago and I'm like, I did that while I was having a baby, while I was sick, while I was traveling to 2 other foreign countries and 2 other states. And then maybe I might beat myself up sometimes. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the things that I accomplish are, to most people, they would look at them and just like, they'd be like, you're lying, and just laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's all because of this work. It's not just because I'm so special. It's like, before this work, I couldn't necessarily get that stuff done at all. But now my capacity is so much greater because of these spiritually based tools. So it's the most practical thing. Kabbalah is not just a spiritual journey that you're going to go take and then have some sort of abstract sense of fulfillment and peace. And isn't that nice? Even if that's all it were, it would still be worth it. Just to have more fulfillment and peace, to me, yeah, that's worth thousands of dollars. Absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely.
Yeah.
People pay, $200 for a bottle of wine. People pay $10,000 for a bottle of wine.
They do. Yeah.
$5,000 for a bottle of brandy.
And you have a
So
headache the next morning.
yeah, and no spiritual progression.
And no spiritual progression.
Spend $200 on a cigar,
Mm.
right? So like it's all priorities in terms of what we want. But so even if that were all that Kabbalah brought, it would be worth it. But it's so much more because it is so practical in terms of delivering the results that you asked for or something better in your life. And then it holds your feet to the fire and it makes you go through the transformational steps and stages so that you own the results. Like it doesn't just hand them to you on a silver platter. It's like, if you want the real result, you have to work for it.
Yeah.
And I use the analogy here of physical and personal training all the time because it's so accurate. Like if you hire a personal trainer, you're hiring them to make you work out, to make you eat certain foods, right? And to keep you on a schedule. And no one in their right mind would hire a personal trainer and not do the workout and say, oh, I'm going to get something out of this. And so in Kabbalah, like you're doing that spiritual workout. And so because you did the workout, you own the results. And the cool thing with Kabbalah is the results are a little bit more permanent than a workout.
A lot more permanent. I would say
they
a lot
stay
more
with you forever. Whereas the results, but you can't fail to do the work. So because it's a spiritual thing of spiritual growth, like you don't lose the spiritual growth as long as you finish the tree and you go all the way through Kabbalah and you complete it at the end. It's locked in, it's permanent, it's turned on. Now you have your tree of life awakened within you spiritually, and it serves as like a ongoing GPS system and roadmap for the rest of your life and beyond.
Right.
So it's not like working out in that sense where, if you work out for 2 months and you gain a bunch of muscle and you lose a bunch of fat and then you stop, you might revert back to your old way. Kabbalah is not really like that.
Yeah, because now once you've finished the tree, you are now living your life as a Kabbalist because because Kabbalah shows you through your life. Like that's the experiential part of it, where you start to have your own awareness of realizing what relationships are holding you back, how deeply and where belief systems are engraved in your subconscious, and then it becomes your job to unravel those with the help of your guide, with the help of healing sessions, rituals and such that we hand down and Empower Thyself in Kabbalah. But and then from there, like you said, I noticed that I had a lot more capacity, I had a lot more energy, I had a lot more drive and clarity to live the life. We say to live life alive is one of the main goal, one of our goals in the mystery school is, like you said, to live a fully multidimensional, joyful, blissful, fulfilled life that you don't need a vacation from, that you don't, that is just, don't need to escape, because you enjoy your life. And why would you want to leave your life that you enjoy?
What's the vacation?
Yeah. I tried to take a vacation. I got 3 days in and I was like, I want to go back to work.
I want to serve people. Yeah, I do that too. I can take like a week and then you can go hiking and boating and sit in the sunshine. And I'm like, okay, this is really boring compared to like helping people progress and, know themselves and be more empowered and change the world to be a better place. Like,
and
I'm
I know
missing
that
out on something by being on vacation.
Yeah, and I know that we're both the same type of people in this sense because of the work we do, is that we can't sort of like just bury our heads in the sands looking at the state of the world. Looking at the state of the world, the state of the society and politics and the way that people are being treated and treating each other. I physically cannot. And before I was initiated, I felt this way, which created, originally a lot of anger because I had no way to affect change in the world. And I didn't know how to make even a change within my own life, let alone how the world worked, but if you are sitting there, but you're like, no, I have something that can help. I have something that I know will create impactful, lasting change, one person at a time, and knowing that each person being connected to their own fulfillment, being connected to their individuality and able to flow joy and love and passion into their lives, that is how we're going to build a better world. So why would I sit on a beach for more than a day or two when I know that I could be actively making a difference in the world with something that I know that works and that will work exponentially as well. People will take this out into their lives, and it's like a drop, each person becomes a drop in the pebble, each person making their own lives better. and then we build up to a different world, a better world, a world of
And
peace.
the world we see is a fabric held together by the minds of everyone on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to improve that fabric is to improve the minds of everyone on the planet. How do you improve someone's mind? Well, they have to improve it for themselves.
Kabbalah.
Yeah, Kabbalah. Exactly. You can't do it for them.
Right back.
You have to remind them to do it for themselves, and they need the tools. And that brings us back to Kabbalah. That brings us back to the path of initiation, because there's not some faster way to make those self-improvement changes. And I, as I'm doing this new branding for leadership training, it's not, I'm listening to tons of podcasts and like reading books and book summaries and all sorts of stuff, just as like field research that I've been doing like more casually for the last 10, 15 years. And, just reading about all the different things that everyone in the personal development fields and leadership and, executive coaching and business coaching fields is always talking about. I'm like, these challenges have been around since the beginning of humans.
Mm-hmm.
These challenges have not gone away. They have gotten more intensified by modern circumstances and the speed of everything that goes on today. Mm-hmm. So we're under more stress from different stressors than we were even 10 years ago. Even 20 years ago, no one knew what a smartphone was. Now, I pick up my phone for 5 to 7 hours a day. Not because not even necessarily because it's an addiction, but because I need it to run my business and to communicate with my clients and to play music for healing sessions or whatever I'm doing. Like, so much is contained on our phones. So there's lots of distractions, there's lots of challenges, there's lots of options to sort of not engage with ourselves. But these challenges that people face are nothing new. And Kabbalah also is a system that is nothing new. Yet it's a system that for thousands of years has mostly been secret. It's a system that, we as initiates on the planet are always holding together the fabric of the planet. Or holding together the fabric of the minds of humans by bringing light into that fabric. Because that fabric is nurtured from spiritual light. They're nurtured from spiritual essence. The mind is not nurtured by the mind. The mind is nurtured by the soul and the spirit. So when someone has positive thoughts in their mind, an initiate in one of the mystery schools, put light into the mind of humans. And as initiates, we know and we feel, especially when we're doing well in our lives and when we're charged up, we're like, I'm making the planet better. A Kabbalist knows that they're contributing to more light on the planet. Especially higher initiates in the mystery school know, as ritual masters and guides, they know what I'm doing, and because we feel it on a daily basis, is somehow improving the minds of humans. And when the minds of humans improve, the state of the world improves. There's so much good happening in the world now. So much evil gets covered on the news, but there's also so much good that's happening in the world. And that's really important to remember, that the light is always making a difference.
Yeah.
Humans being good people is always making a difference. How do humans have the choice to remember to choose to be good? Well, they need light.
Right.
They need self-knowledge. Right. So the more people who do something like Kabbalah, the more people who do something like mystery school initiation, the more light there is in the minds of humans. Because we share the mind. Like, there's no such thing as original thought. The thought that you're having now is a thought your neighbor was having 5 minutes ago. Thought moves in waves. They've even done studies where, and the whole concept of an EEG, like hooking yourself up to like electrodes, the electrodes aren't in your brain. They're measuring the electrical waves coming off of your brain. So when someone's thinking, their brain is literally emitting electromagnetic radio frequencies and signals. Now, those signals, of course, our brains know how to pick up on those signals from other people. We don't yet have devices that can take a brainwave coming off someone and turn it into a word in English. Maybe that's 5 years away. Maybe that's 10 years away. Maybe we'll never really have a device that can do that, because maybe the only device that can do that is another human brain. But your thoughts of this moment are the thoughts of your neighbor from 5 minutes ago. So there's no such thing as original thought. There's just thought that has more light and more joy and more peace and fulfillment and choice. And then there's less light. When people have less light, they have less of those things. And they have more misery and more suffering, less choice, less awareness, less freedom. And as mystery school initiates, our job is to continually bring light into that matrix of the minds of humans, so that people can choose to set themselves free. They have that opportunity. And the
Right.
more people who do that, it gets a little bit easier. Every person who is initiated, every person who takes Kabbalah, they put a little bit more light into the planet. And so their neighbors and the people around them and their family members and their friends and their colleagues at work, all those people get a little bit more light too.
Right.
That light radiates out to other places on the planet, to people you'll never meet.
Right.
And Kabbalah is also one of our best systems for doing that, because the Kabbalah is holographic. The tree of life is holographic. And everything that you go through in your own tree of life, all the transformation you go through during Kabbalah as you are following that pathway back home to yourself, that radiates out to every other person on the planet, because everyone is part of the tree of life.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone gets a little bit more choice. Yeah. Everyone gets a little bit more freedom when you do Kabbalah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to sort of top that off or cap that off is that, people do overwhelmingly desire good. Right. Their motivations for life, they do want goodness. They want to do good, they want to be good, and they just get stuck because they don't know how, or like you said, their choices are limited to a certain frequency or a certain dimension. And by doing Kabbalah, even for yourself and for the collective at large, starting with the people who are sort of closest to you, friends, family members, etc., you are going to create a different, higher potential for choice, higher potential for goodness. So people can say, oh, I can, because all they need is just, like you said, that awareness of, oh, this is what can be better. I have the authority to choose a better thought. I have it, and then take a better action, to have more goodness. Because people really do desire goodness. They just don't know how or what or where. So by doing, receiving the path of initiation, starting with life activation, to activate that spiritual DNA within ourselves, to allow that light of goodness to flow into our DNA, to open up those potentials within us, and then set the foundation of empower thyself, giving people their first, sort of their first round of tools, of rituals, and the power and protection of the initiation, to really solidify yourself in the light, as not a mere human, but someone here with the authority and with the power to create change, to bring light into this world. And then Kabbalah, can be a next step after that, to really dive in, like we've been talking about, to clear out that subconscious, to find out who you are, and answer the questions that humans have been answering since the beginning of time, of who we are and why we're here and where we're going and where we come from. And then there's also the potential of going to Healers Academy, second step initiation, and receiving the ability to provide that life activation service to another being, and really create that exponential effect of creating more positive change in the world. And so much opens up for there. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add or talk about before we?
No, I think if we open something else up, we're going to talk for another hour. So
I know. That's what I said. I was like, I think we're probably out of time.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here. I know there's like so many little rabbit holes we could go on here. But if you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in anything that we talked about, please reach out. We can schedule a consultation. We can get you in a Kabbalah class. Myself or Jordan are, of course, available to serve you, to answer your questions, to have more conversations, and really get you on your path of spiritual self-mastery and spiritual self-knowledge within the Modern Mystery School lineage. So thank you so much for talking. Thank you, Jordan, for your time, for being here today and illuminating so much for us. Also, follow Jordan's podcast, follow Jordan social media as well. He's doing amazing things within the Boston community and the world at large in his service. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here, and have a wonderful day.
Awesome. Thank you, Madison, for hosting. Take care, everyone.